Yo, what is up, Cup Check audience? Welcome back. And we got an exciting one today. We're going to be kind of breaking down a lot of the exciting news going on in the MLB. I'm here with my co-host, Zach Crutchfield, and he's gonna get us into today's video here.
Yeah, man, we knew as soon as the lockout ended, the floodgates were going to open. So it's been really exciting. We're going to kick it off with a trio of first basemen. Number one, Matt Olson to the Braves on an 8-year contract. How do you think this helps his
It was like 100.
value?
Do you remember what the cash was? I want to say it was close to 200 mil, but like just under.
I can look it up really quick, but how do you think it helps his value, especially in dynasty leagues with an 8-year deal?
I think this totally raises his value across all platforms, especially the dynasty leagues, because now the Braves just have that like young core of Albies, Olson, Acuna locked up for a very long time. So I think that makes him a huge asset in the dynasty world. Definitely moves him up my rankings. And then even for this year, I think it moves him up my rankings as well, because now he's just going to be in a really high powered offense. I'm not too sure how that stadium plays, but Freddie Freeman's put up great numbers as left-hand bat in that stadium. So I have to imagine Olson will be able to do it as well.
Yeah, I love it. You're so right about the young core. It's going to be right in the middle of the lineup, and it's 168 mil for 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Congrats to Matt Olson. He's going to be playing baseball for a long time, getting paid. But yeah, I think as much as it hurts to see Freddie Freeman leave, to all the Braves fans, like I think this is an amazing move, and I think that the Braves fan base is going to be in for a lot of winning years to come.
Yeah, Olson's a stud. And I don't think Braves fans should be too sad about it, because if Freddie was kind of wanting to cut ties and move on, I don't know why. Maybe he wasn't getting the contract he wanted to. Maybe he just wanted to go back to LA, where he's originally from. But
he's really done everything he can for the Braves. I mean, he's been there since he was 19 years old, and his last ever hit as a Brave was a homer, and his last ever out recorded was the last out of the World Series. So, I mean, just a great career with Atlanta. And I think Freddie Freeman's ready to move on and just kind of go wherever his family wants, wherever the wind takes him, I guess.
Yeah, and it's good on the Braves being proactive with it. If they know Freddie's not coming back, go and get Matt Olson for 8 years. So,
yeah,
just moving on now to.
And real quick, like they didn't even give up a ton to get to him. They gave up their number 2 prospect in Pache, who, if we're being honest, like Pache could be great, could be whatever. But I think he's really just kind of like this comparison could really come back to haunt me. Like I just think he is basically Harrison Bader. Like he's going to give you really solid defense, steal a few bags. And I think Bader's a little farther along in terms of like the hitting development. And I think Pache is going to have a few years of struggling with the bat before he becomes fantasy relevant or really an all-star level player. And then they gave up like 2 prospects who weren't like essential to their system. I think one was a catcher, which will be interesting to see what the A's do with Soderstrom. Maybe they'll move him over to first. They just got another catcher. But yeah, didn't give up a lot to get Olson. So good for them.
Yeah, we got to move on from Olson onto Freddie. First of all, where do you think he's going to sign? I'm thinking Dodgers.
I think Dodgers is the most likely, but like, how sick would it be if he went to Toronto?
Yeah,
like that would be so like dope to see Vladdy over there. But like, it's not going to happen. They just got Chapman, so and they're not going to. Freddie Freeman doesn't want to be a DH, and neither does Vlad. So I got to think Toronto's out of the picture. I think the Padres might try and surprise some people and make a push, just because losing Tatis, they might want that like boost in their lineup while he's gone. But just before we started filming this, I saw 358 baseball, 318. Which one is it?
358. You trust them with your life.
Yeah, they do every little rumor they hear, but they said that the Rays are making an extreme push for Freeman, which would be awesome to see the Rays actually spend some money but it's kind of out of characteristic to them. So I'm gonna have to go with the Dodgers, but I kind of hope that doesn't happen. So yeah.
All right, yeah, I think Freddie, I don't think his value as a fantasy asset changes too much with all this, but it's just really interesting to talk about. It's sad to see him leave Atlanta. All right, moving on to Rizzo. He just re-signed with the Yanks. I think that keeps him fantasy relevant in that small park, surrounded by hitters. Yankees didn't hit much last year, but everyone kind of expects some level of a bounce back with Judge and Stanton in that lineup. And now Donaldson too. So what you think about Rizzo's fantasy value as a Yankee?
Yeah, I think he's kind of still in that later, kind of around like 10 to 15 range at first baseman. Rizzo really hasn't been the biggest fantasy asset in a few years now, but you never know. He could break out over there. But I probably won't have too many shares of Rizzo on my team this year.
Okay, that might be a place where we differ a little bit because I like Rizzo for the next year to kind of settle in as a Yankee, get a full season there, and maybe hit 30 home runs.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great for the Yankees if that happened.
Yep. Moving on, guy we touched on just for a second, Matt Chapman, traded to the Blue Jays. A's are getting rid of everyone. What do you think about Matt Chapman in the stacked Blue Jays lineup?
Yeah, I think this is what's going to be really interesting for Matt Olson because he's I'm not gonna like when I look at a player, I look at like their possibility to get into the Hall of Fame and a bunch of other stuff as well. And just like talking about Matt Olson as a whole, like he's gonna put up the defensive numbers to
Matt
kind of
Chapman,
make
Matt
that.
Chapman.
Yeah, my bad. Matt Chapman. He's gonna put up the defensive numbers like for his whole career to be like a defensive caliber, like a Hall of Fame defensive caliber player. So now that he's going to this like stacked lineup, like maybe he gets it on track, starts getting those offensive numbers he needs, and really turns his career around. I think that lineup is going to be phenomenal again this year. And yeah, I think Matt Chapman's got to be pretty excited about that move out of Oakland.
I love the move. Just talking about fantasy baseball from a fantasy perspective, it's huge for him.
Yeah.
Oakland is a big park. Toronto is tiny, and when he's surrounded by all those hitters, I think we're really going to see boosts in all of his offensive numbers across the board. Last year, 27 home runs in Oakland, only a 210 average, struck out 202 times. So kind of a tough season. But that 27 home runs that could turn into mid 30s in Toronto. So if he could just get that average up a little bit, they should be competing in the AL East. So maybe that will help him out too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
really like Matt Chapman now.
Chapman's got to be moving up my third base rankings for this year just because he's relevant now. I mean, he was already almost relevant before, but now that he's in that lineup, expect a lot of good things. So moving on from that, what else do you got for us, Zach?
Yeah, moving on to two starting pitchers that signed Rhodan to the Giants and Kershaw back with the Dodgers. Anything doing for you here with Rhodan and Kershaw?
Not really. I think Rhodan is going to be solid as long as he's healthy wherever. And I'm just glad that Kershaw is staying a Dodger. I just want him to retire there eventually and just kind of go out on top with that team. And Kershaw has some
Yeah.
sneaky fantasy value. I mean, all these people loving Scherzer, loving Verlander, like Kershaw's in that same level, and he's actually younger than those guys. You would expect Kershaw to be like 40 years old, but he's like mid 30s still. So
Yeah, I still love Kershaw. I ranked him in my top 20 pitchers. Rhodan, I'm still worried about the injury risk, but Giants do tend to handle the veterans well. So I like the move to the Giants. Don't know how much it really affects his fantasy value. Moving on though, we can end here with the Reds. The Reds moves.
yeah,
So that affects a lot of stuff, man. It affects obviously Winker and Suarez, but it really also affects the guys that are still on the Reds. Votto now is back, just surrounded by no one, like always. Um, India, some of these young stars that were like fantasy relevant now, just they got no one to drive them in anymore.
I might have a little bit of a hot take. You know who I think that this might affect most?
So,
The whole fantasy world. I think it affects Julio Rodriguez. Trading for Winker is detrimental to our hopes of seeing Julio Rodriguez break spring
dude,
training.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, Zach, you're in for another long year of Julio on the bench because, especially in the dynasty leagues, I'm guessing that the Mariners' plan is to shift Kalanick to center field and then run out Haniger Winker, or do some form of DHing Winker. Suarez is going to play third for them. Their shortstop's locked up. And then they have DJ, or it's either Dylan Moore or DJ Moore, something more. And then they have who's that second baseman we like? I'm kind of blanking right now.
Hi, France.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of like if there's a DH possibility for Winker, but I am thinking that especially if Kyle Lewis is healthy, maybe they'll DH Winker and just go Lewis, Kalanick, Haniger. But I think that this really hurts Julio. I think that it means that the club is planning on leaving him down maybe all of next year, if not towards the latter half of the year. Maybe that's when you see Julio.
Yeah, I honestly did not even consider that. It's a very good point. They're loaded in the outfield. Four outfield starters that are
And they
ahead
also
of.
have Taylor Trammell, who's like good enough to start somewhere in the MLB. So
Yeah. So right now, Fangraphs has their right field at Haniger, left field at Jesse Winker, center field at Kelenic, and that's not even including Kyle Lewis, Rookie of the Year,
and
and
I think Kyle Lewis will be in that lineup in the outfield. I think Winker will DH. I think that's more likely. Who does it have as their DH? Does it show?
right now Fangraphs has Abraham Toro, switch hitter, so that could definitely
They have
change.
Toro
But
as well, dude. Holy cow. Toro was actually kind
yeah,
of a beast. He's who they got for Graveman. So, I mean, Toro is going to play in that lineup. Like, they didn't trade for him for no reason. Maybe that means Suarez is playing. Who's playing first?
Ty France at first with Adam Frazier. We forgot they made that move
Oh,
at second. So they're
yeah,
okay. Mariners are loaded, and Winker and Suarez are both going to be surrounded by a lot of good hitters.
that's true. And Julio Rodriguez is now not playing this year, sadly.
You would
It's a tough
think
one.
that it's tough, but the Mariners really like holding these guys in the minors for a long time, and their window now they got a pretty long window of possibility. So maybe they'll just be trying to hold down Julio as long as possible to keep him team control for as long as possible, which
Yep.
sucks.
Yeah, it really does for baseball. But hey, that's going to do it for our episode today. Thank you all for tuning in. I think this was one of our longer episodes. We shall see. Stay tuned for a Reds rant series coming up where I'm
We're
going to
doing
be
that.
I'm going to be putting down the Cardinals hat and putting on my fake Reds hat and just like listening to Zach rant about his beloved Reds. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for watching.